These are the varieties I'm growing in my 280 square foot garden to grow 650 pounds of vegetables. Quick note before we get started here, I'm located in Southern Ontario, Zone 6A, and my last frost date is May 5th. We're going to get started with brassicas. For broccoli, I'll be growing the Gypsy variety. I liked it because it had great heat resistance and excellent head size last year. Next up is Broccolini. My husband loves broccolini, and it was the first broccoli-like crop I was able to harvest last year, so I plan to grow it again this year. For Brussels sprouts, I'll be growing the Long Island Improved. I've yet to have very much success with Brussels sprouts, so I'm trying again this year. I don't think it's a variety issue. I think it's a gardener issue. I think they need more nitrogen than I'm providing them. So if you have any Brussels sprout tips, let me know in the comments below. For cabbage, I'll be growing the Golden Acre cabbage. It's a nice sized cabbage. It's not too big. It's not too small. We like to eat a lot of our cabbage fresh. I don't do very much preserving with the cabbage, so having a head that's a manageable size is important to me. I also like that it's nice and tender. Last but not least, in the Brassica family, we have winter choy. I love the winter choy for fall plantings. It lasts well into the winter. It can even handle some snow on top without dying, which is wonderful. It just helps extend your gardening season even longer. Next up is root vegetables, starting with the humble radish. I like to have radish seeds on hand to pop in between maturing crops because they are so quick to mature. This variety maturing in 26 days. Next up is turnips. I have two types of turnips we're going to be growing this year. The Purple Prince, which is a little bit larger of a turnip. We quite liked the flavor of turnips last year in roasted vegetables. Last year we grew the little salad turnips and we quite enjoyed roasting them whole, and we enjoyed the flavor. A classic, carrots. Danvers 126 half-long carrots. My carrot crop did quite poorly this year. My family only really eats tons of carrots in the fall and winter months in soup, stew. So I only planted a fall planting of carrots, and I think I planted it too late in the season and it never really got to size. The next one is a new one to me, beets. I've tried to grow beets in the past and have never had them size up. There's this kale salad with goat cheese that I quite enjoy having, and I would love to grow some beets, to have some pickled beets in the fridge to make that kale salad. So we're going to try again. I picked an early variety. This crop matures in 55 days in hopes that I can get it to size up. I have heard that beets sometimes take longer than the days it says on the package. I'm hoping by picking an early maturing variety that I will get a nice size beet this year. Another new one for me this year is Rutabagas. I think they would be great to add in place of potatoes in things like soups, especially like pureed soups and in stew. They're also quite cold hardy in the fall. Next up is Alliums, starting with onions. Last year I grew the Alyssa Craig onion. It's a sweet onion and I loved it. It was the first time I had some big, nice big onions. They held up pretty well for me. They lasted until December, until they started sprouting. The other allium I already have planted in the garden, which is garlic. I planted some music garlic. I grew a bunch of different varieties of garlic last year, and music is the only one that put on any size for me. Next up is the cucurbit family, so your squashes, melons, and cucumbers. For summer squash, I'm planning to grow a yellow zucchini and a green zucchini. I love zucchini boats, and we did not have nearly enough squash for nearly enough zucchini boats last year. The next set of cucurbits that I'm very excited about is the winter squash. I have yet to successfully grow any winter squash in any sort of volume. I think I grew 2 acorn squashes last year. I've had a hard time getting winter squash to take off and grow. I got 2 bush style squash. So I got the Goldilocks acorn squash, which is an orange bush acorn squash. And then I got Reno acorn squash, which is bush as well. And then I got Victory butternut squash. And I got this butternut squash in particular because it is bred for speed, so it's early maturing. Hoping that I'll get lots of winter squash this year with the earlier bush varieties than I have in the past. So wish me luck on the winter squash front and these 3 new varieties. I think it'll be pretty colors to have as well. And then last but not least is cucumber. I will be growing the China Jade cucumber. I grew it last year and it was prolific. One cucumber plant produced over 10 pounds of cucumbers. Next up is the legume family. So for peas, I'm growing snap peas, sugar daddy snap peas. I grew them last year and loved them. They're stringless, which is important for me for a snap pea and a bean. The sugar daddy snap pea was very prolific. In about 4 square feet of growing space, I was able to grow 4 pounds of snap peas, which wasn't too bad. Next is green bean. Last year I grew lots of green beans. I grew pole green beans. I grew bush green beans. This year we're dialing back the green beans a little bit. I grew 60 pounds of green beans last year, and that's more than a pound of green beans a week. So this year I'm only growing pole green beans. I'm going to grow the Kentucky Blue. Kentucky Blue was my favorite green bean last year. It's the green bean I grew over my 2 arch trellises. It produced over the whole season. They were nice to preserve. They were nice to eat. When you're trying to feed your family out of your garden as much as possible, having a substantial bean plant that produces a solid green bean is very important. Next up is our Nightshade family. So our tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes. For potatoes, I'm not sure which variety of potatoes I'll be growing just yet. I will probably grow a white potato and a yellow potatoes, but the varieties I won't know until they come into the garden center this spring. For peppers, so sweet peppers this year, I'm growing small sweet peppers. I have not had very much luck with big bell peppers turning color in time. This year my plan is to grow smaller sweet peppers in hopes that I can get them to ripen to color and that hopefully they'll have a little bit thicker of a wall. So I'm growing 2 red peppers, the lipstick pepper and the Lisa pepper. They're supposed to be easy to grow peppers that produce tons and ripen early, so we will see. I'm also growing the orange Lisa pepper. Same reasons, I'm hoping to get a nice orange sweet pepper that's thick-walled, that'll turn color before the gardening season's over. The pepper that did very well for me last year was the Hungarian yellow banana pepper. This is the sweet banana pepper. It did wonderful for me. It produced tons of nice sweet peppers. They're not terribly thick-walled, but they were nice, they were sweet, and they were the only colored pepper I got last year. And for hot peppers, I love jalapenos. I am a big fan of the flavor of jalapenos and the spice level of the jalapenos. My favorite jalapeno by far last year, and will be the only jalapeno I grow this year, was the Black Magic jalapeno. It was incredibly productive. The Black Magic jalapeno pepper outproduced all the other jalapeno peppers by far. That pepper spent most of the year just dripping with fruit. For tomatoes, I'm dialing back the cherry tomatoes a little bit this year. Last year I grew 5 cherry tomatoes and ended up with well over 25 pounds of cherry tomatoes. So the cherry tomatoes I plan to grow this year is the Berries Crazy Cherry. It is truly crazy. The trust of tomatoes that hung off that plant is incredible. The other cherry tomato I'm going to grow is a classic, the Sweet Million. Their trusses are nice and large, and the tomatoes are delicious. You can't go wrong. We are not a big raw tomato eating family. Most of the tomatoes we make into sauce or salsa. I'm looking for tomatoes that are low on pulp, that'll can well, that'll make good tomato soup, good tomato sauce, that'll make good salsa. So the varieties I picked are Amish paste. I grew Amish paste last year and the year before that, and will probably always grow it. It's a lovely tomato, great for canning. I've never had any problems with the plants, and they've always produced very well for me. And the other variety of tomato I'll be growing, which is new to me this year, is the bread and salt. Last year I grew the Hungarian heart tomato, which is very similar to the bread and salt tomato, except it's pink. It was beautiful, it was productive, but I found that the pink tomato just made all the products I canned not as vibrant in color as a true red tomato would. So I wanted to grab something that was similar, but red. Next up is the miscellaneous section. To start it off is celery. I'll be growing the tall Utah celery. I grew it last year, didn't have any issues. And if it's not broken, why fix it? I still have lots of seeds for the tall Utah celery, so I'm going to grow that one again. One of my goals is to have lettuce throughout the whole growing season into the winter a little bit. I did a great job with spring planted lettuce last year, but I did a very poor job succession planting for summer lettuces, and then I planted my fall lettuce too early and it all went to seed before I was ready for it. So this year I just want to do better with my succession planting and have a wider variety of lettuces to pull from that vary in their characteristics a little bit. Some are more cold hardy, some are slower to bolt, so that I can hopefully get a good long steady supply of lettuce the whole year. Tried and true classic will be the Butter Crunch lettuce. The next lettuce I plan to grow, I grew it last year. It's beautiful. It just adds a little spice to your lettuce blend. It is the Flashy Butter Gem lettuce. The next one I'm planning to lean pretty heavy on for my summer plantings, and it's called Drunken Woman. I also love the name. It claims to be one of the last lettuces to bolt in the field. I'm really hoping it does have a good bolt resistance so that I can have lettuce all summer long. The next one is a lettuce that if it is not a classic, it should become a classic for its color, is the Merlot lettuce. It produces wonderfully, and for visual appeal in a salad, the color is just so rich and beautiful. The next one I'm hoping will stretch through all our seasons easily because of its name is the Marvel of Four Seasons. I've never grown it. I look forward to growing it, and the color again is beautiful. So that's the lettuce lineup for this year. I'm really hoping that it'll result in having lettuce from the beginning of the season to the end. The next crop is something I've never grown before, but I've heard that if you haven't had it from the garden, you've never really tasted its full flavor, and that is corn. I plan to succession plant the corn after I plant my garlic, so I needed a quick variety of corn, and temptress fit the bill. If you need help planning your garden to maximize your garden space, check out how I plan my garden here.